Welcome, everybody. We are back with more Star Trek CCG content. I have Derek here, and we are going to go over the top 10 Romulan cards. We're doing this for factions. We've got a lot of these ready to go, so a lot of factions out there, but these are 10 cards to think about in the format. We have Decipher cards, we have Trek CC, Continuing Committee cards. We're doing both because that's just how we're structuring this to kind of keep things going. Derek, thanks again for walking us through this. I'm really excited to learn what the Romulans. Probably my top 5 factions, top 10 factions.
Well, there's quite a bit in this game if you do consider the Federation with their sub factions of all the affiliations. I think right now there's like 19. I think without the sub factions of the TN or the Federation. So, but yeah, no, great to be back and talking some Romulans today. We talked to Cardassians last time, so now you get the Romulans here. So some more bad guys.
All right, but bad guys is kind of bad guys.
Maybe just misunderstood, right?
Misunderstood. So here's our first one, which is a series of cards actually. So headquarters.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like we kind of talk about at the beginning there with a little bit of the intro. I don't want to just waste a particular 3-spot cards for these, because this is really kind of, you'll see with a lot of affiliations, headquarters, right? Because again, one of the things we want to look at when we look at these cards is free gameplay of personnel, ships, or just any type of free card play, rather than costing your single card play per turn. So headquarters is huge. You have the actual original 2 that were printed by the Decipher, which was Office of the Pro Consul and the Continuing Committee, and then with one of the more recent released Trek CC virtual sets that were focused on the TNG movie era. You have the Senate Chamber, which was where the Romulans, Star Trek Nemesis, where Tom Hardy, as Shinzon, ends up blowing them up. So, but you have the Senate Chamber. So again, free reports of personnel is always a great one. And one of the unique things about this one too was that typically only allowed one headquarters at the homeworld, but the Continuing Committee could work with the Office of the Pro Consul, which was pretty cool.
Cool. All right, so this is number 1. I ordered these correctly, so we're going up, not down.
Okay. So now we introduced a time location. So really, there was just a handful of time locations introduced in the Decipher era. And then really the only thing that came out of the Enterprise set was the 18 boutique set for Starfleet. So, when we talk Starfleet eventually and all that, we'll go into this. So, but one of the things that was really cool is called the Drone Control Room, which was the Romulans through the Enterprise series. This allows you to do some really cool stuff around, they call them the Raptors, which are little ships that you can ping around. You can play anywhere. When you put them into your hand, you move them to your location of your opponent. You get to draw cards with remote interference. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do by getting the drone control room and getting Admiral Valdor and really getting the remote interference out.
Cool. All right, next one, number 3.
So for the TNG block that the Trek CC introduced, they had always a chess game, which is a really cool Romulan play engine. And obviously you utilize the continuing mission to get that warp card of the always a chess game. But again, free report. You can also score additional points when your TNG Romulan personnel help solve a universal neutral zone mission. So again, anytime you can score bonus points is always a good thing. So, but again, free report. So, make sure that when we talked about this, it was covering different errors, because we could just again lump free reports into one slide. But, I figured it was best to break these up a little bit based off of their factions.
I'm just also enjoying this the art here. It's fun to see different cards and new cards I've never seen. All right, on to number 4.
Okay. So the neutral zone was where the Trek CC introduced the TOS, right? So we had TOS introduced through Troubles with Tribbles, but it was really focused on utilizing the time location of Sherman's Peak. So the neutral zone allowed you to basically play TOS without having to play with that single time location, which is really nice. Opened up some gameplay. And for Test for Weakness is really where the Romulans get to shine. Some really cool stuff. When you get this card out, the objective is basically blowing up the Federation Earth outpost. And when you get to do that, you get a bunch of benefits, right? So very thematic. And again, just great play engine.
All right, number 5.
All right. So the first card, Engage Cloak, is a Decipher Error card. This card is not, specific to just the Romulans. So it's really the Scimitar we want to kind of call out here because it downloads Engage Cloak. But Engage Cloak is nice because one of the cool things that I enjoy about the thematics of the Star Trek CCG in first edition was that when your ship would cloak, depending on which, affiliations would have cloaking ships, you turn it upside down. So your opponent can't see it essentially, right? Like it's cloaked. And then you get to move it around, whatever that you normally do. Well, Engage Cloak's a little unique because it actually removes it in a sense from the table, as I say in air quotes, and places it on Engage Cloak, which protects it because there are some cards that specifically could call out and target a cloak ship. But this is really nice because the more turns it stays on, I'm sorry, your cloak ship stays on Engage Cloak. When you bring it back to the table, you get to extend its range as many times as you want based off those turns that was on there. So if you had a range 8 ship and you kept it on for 2 turns, you could come out and play it with 16. Plus, it's a great way of springing it on your opponent. And it's just a great way of immediately being able to move that ship.
All right, number 6.
So, as I mentioned, Trouble with Tribbles was the first introduction for the TOS, the original series. Let me make sure I at least give the acronym out once. The original series icon. And so, you had the Federation, the Romulans, the Klingons for the main affiliations, along with some non-aligned. But the Gal here is really nice ship because it allows you to download any Romulan TOS personnel. And as most folks know, the download function is a really powerful function because it essentially, when you activate that, you can activate it during almost any time pretty much. There are a couple of counter cards that could break it, but for the most part, you can do this during mission attempts, which is really cool because when you attempt a mission, right, you don't normally get to see the dilemma until you encounter it. And you can't do a whole lot unless if you have a specific interrupter card that may play it. But a lot of times, if you have a card that filters and you lose that card for that personnel skill, you could do this where you could download whatever specific skill you're needing at that time. Or a chain of events where you could download a personnel that may download a card that might help, like maybe a Romulan pad or a Romulan disruptor, depending on what you need. So a really great card that allows any type of essentially cheating, as we like to say, when it comes to the special download.
Ooh, the Centurion.
Yeah, so we're going to get into some now key personnel. I've tried to space them out really good, what we could, in regards to, kind of the sub factions for the Romulans. The TOS, obviously there's some really good cards, but I kind of decided to pick on the Centurion for this, mainly because of his special skill there, where other Romulans at this location are attributes all +1. And again, that is any Romulan. It doesn't have to be TOS specific, right? So you can have any type of Romulan. And also, it's not just limited to the affiliation icon because it doesn't use the affiliation icon. It's the Romulan. So if you had for example, non-aligned, or if you had a treaty where you had another type of affiliation, but they were Romulan species, this character gives them all +1 attributes. And anytime you can pump up your character in skill sets for all 3 areas is a great card. All right. Senator Kratok. So get a little Deep Space Nine love, but she's a really good personnel. Really works well with the headquarters that we mentioned earlier. But the big thing here is that she gives your Romulan ships at the same location weapons +2. And with the DS9, specifically when they came out with Blaze of Glory, the expansion where they introduced the tactics, this made really good usage out of the Romulan ships. The Romulan ships have always been more powerful all the way back from Premiere. especially with, again, cloaking. But the idea here is that now you've made all your ships at that location +2. It's easy enough to wipe out any type of other opponent ships, as well as potentially even going for their outpost or their headquarters, or even attacking a board ship if you wanted to go for the bonus points.
Number 9. I mean, these guys just look awesome. I made this deck and I forgot what the cards look like.
Yeah. So Preconsul Neural is a really good for TNG, as we mentioned earlier, right? One of the sub affiliations with always a chess game. But this card is really good, even again outside of it, because of 2 things. The first is the Live Long and Prosper, which is just a nice interrupt, and might be a current, but again, you can keep it in your Q's tent, one of your side decks. You don't have to actually put it in your deck. Again, it could be a rare occurrence. But really, the Art of Diplomacy, which was introduced in the Mirror expansion, which is a really good card that applies now to your Romulans. In the Art of Diplomacy, it really only applies to the Mirror original cards. And with this, it allows you basically to utilize 2 treachery as 1 diplomacy, which is great. It allows you to also download a hand weapon once per game, which is great. And so who doesn't like the fact that, Romulans can use ×2 treachery as a single diplomacy skill? So
Our final one.
Yes, our final one. So, well, can't have Romulans without Spock. Wait, wasn't he a Vulcan? So yes, obviously, anyone that's a fan of Star Trek understands that, the Vulcans and the Romulans have a love-hate relationship, as they, are a similar species. There's a lot of great storylines around that. And for the next generation, there is a really great CC virtual card for Ambassador Spock. Really great skills as typical, right? So any of the normal Decipher era cards, everyone knows that Spock's just a monster when it comes to skill set and attributes. So this is great because if you think about what Spock we got is basically just Federation. So it's nice when you can have something of another affiliation of key characters, right? It helps bring some familiarity with people that just like to play with, mains and toys, like as most card games, right? But also this guy is just a phenomenal special skill download where it allows you to download any universal Romulan personnel with integrity over 6, which this character plus another one like that can help you do some staple dilemmas like God, which both requires characters over integrity 8, which is very difficult for Romulans, unless if you're playing the dissident, sub-faction from the Romulans TNG. But that's great. Or you can get Pardock, which is just another nice skill set of characters that you might need to get. But again, being able to download at any point in time is really great, especially during mission attempt.
And I think that's all we got here. So
that's top 10.
Top 10. Are Romulans fun to play? Like, what is sort of the most fun to play? I'm just curious.
So one of the cool things that I love about Romulans is the same thing, kind of like I loved Cardassians, is because you can capture people. They're really thematic with that. If you remember, there's a couple of TNG episodes where the original card from, I think it was Q Continuum of Brainwash was introduced when they brainwashed Geordi LaForge. They introduced the LaForge impersonator, which gives you the all sorts of cool tricks to do and infiltrating your opponent's Federation. But I like that. I really actually, one of my personal favorite decks is playing the Deep Space Nine joint operation, which is a mixture of when the Cardassians and the Romulans team up to go attack the Dominion in the Gamma Quadrant. And it's just really fun to get both the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order together.
All right. Well, thank you for taking us through the top 10 Romulan cards. We'll be back with more of these, but like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Please, comment and share the video. Love to get some more knowledge and love for this game out there. And reminder that you can download all these cards for free. There we go. Signing off. We'll see you guys next time.